Life is short but wide, this too shall pass. Rebecca Wells. Life is so brief that a mere blink is enough for youth to slip away, yet so vast that every soul must navigate through countless seasons of solitude to truly understand itself. People often suffer because they mistakenly believe that their current emotions are permanent. When sadness arrives, they think their world has collapsed. When betrayal visits, they believe their heart will remain forever in ruins. But time always performs its work in silence, like the patient tide smoothing the jagged rocks upon the shore. No storm lasts forever, and no winter is strong enough to keep the sun a prisoner. We often cling to things that are fading away, like a child trying to hold a handful of sand. The tighter the squeeze, the faster it falls. We hurt because we try to control what is naturally meant to change. We grow weary trying to make things static in a world created to be in constant motion. But it is that very fragility that gives life its profound depth. If flowers never withered, humans would never learn to cherish the season of their bloom. If youth never passed, no one would understand the value of the days when we could still dream with all our hearts. Some spend their whole lives running from pain, only to realize that a wound is also a form of light. It makes a person more mature, gentler, and more empathetic to the suffering of others. Memories that once kept us awake at night, looking back years later, feel only like the sound of distant rain outside the window. The very thing that breaks us today will eventually become a story we tell with a calm gaze. This is how time heals, not by erasing the pain, but by making the heart wide enough to contain it. Life is like a train journey through the mist. People board and depart at different stations. Some encounters last only a few rainy seasons, but leave an echo for a lifetime. Therefore, instead of fearing loss, we should learn to be fully present. Love while you can still love. Speak your truths before silence becomes permanent. And live as if each day is the final page given to you to write your meaning. For in the end, what brings peace is not how much we have held on to, but how deeply we have lived. Life is short, but the human soul can be as vast as the sky if we know how to let go at the right time and love in the right way. One day, looking back at every loss, every happiness, and every parting, we will smile with relief, understanding that everything truly passes and only the growth of the soul remains. It is not the strength of the body that counts, but the strength of the spirit. J.R.R. Tolkien. There are those with bodies as strong as steel, whose strides command caution from others. Yet a single small crisis can cause their spirit to crumble like a hollow wall. Conversely, there are those who appear fragile, silent as a branch in the wind, but their minds are so steady they can walk through a tempest without losing themselves. What matters has never been muscle or external power. It is the silent strength within the soul that decides whether a person stands up or collapses after life's collisions. Physicality helps one win a match, but the spirit helps one conquer oneself. A healthy body can lift heavy weights, but only a strong spirit can carry the weight of desperate days. Life does not always attack with tangible pain. Sometimes what exhausts us most are the invisible burdens. Prolonged loneliness, silent pressure, the feeling of being lost in a crowd, or those nights lying still listening to your heart shatter, only to have to smile the next morning. And in those moments, spiritual strength becomes the only flame that keeps a person from sinking into the dark. Like the surface of the sea, some look very peaceful, but beneath are turbulent waves crashing incessantly. The truly strong are not those who feel no pain, but those who continue to walk even when their hearts are full of cracks. They understand that life is unfair, but they do not let bitterness turn them into souls of despair. They may fail, they may lose, but they do not allow themselves to lose their will. For as long as the spirit stands firm, there is always a chance to begin again. Spiritual strength also lies in the ability to control one's emotions amidst chaos. It is being betrayed but not letting hatred consume the soul. It is being looked down upon but silently perfecting oneself instead of screaming to prove a point. It is when life pushes us into the shadows, yet we still hold a small light in our hearts to keep believing in tomorrow. A tree survives not because it never met a storm, but because its roots were deep enough not to be uprooted by the gale. Modern people often spend too much time training their exterior while forgetting to nurture their interior. They build muscles for their body, but leave their soul fragile before the words of others. Meanwhile, a strong spirit can turn adversity into a lesson, solitude into growth, and pain into the depth of character. That is the kind of power no eye can see, yet it is the foundation that decides the true value of a person. Time will prove that what makes a person respected is not how physically strong they were, but how they navigated through their own darkness. For the body will age and strength will decline, but a resilient soul will always be a light that is not easily extinguished in this vast life. Courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. John Wayne. The person who does not know fear does not tremble or waver before danger. But the deep truth is, fear is the most primal instinct. It exists in every heart, like darkness exists beneath the sea. The courageous one is not the one who lacks fear, but the one who walks on even when their knees are shaking and their mind is screaming with uncertainty. That moment is what defines the true value of courage. Life is not a battlefield for the invincible, but a journey for those full of cracks who still strive not to fall. There are days when we stand before a choice as if standing on the edge of a deep abyss, to continue or to quit, to face it or to flee. The heart beats like a drum in the night, fear running through the body as cold as winter water. But still, someone takes a deep breath and steps forward. Not because they are certain to win, but because they understand that if they do not move forward, they will lose themselves. Outsiders only see the final act, but no one sees the fierce battle raging inside a person before they decide to advance. A confession after years of silence, walking away from a relationship that causes pain, a decision to start over after failure, or simply choosing to keep living kindly in a world that turns hearts cold. All of these require courage, a silent strength more powerful than any shout. Fear is like a thick fog covering the road ahead. It makes us imagine failure, pain, and loss before anything has even happened. But if we stay still in our comfort zone, life gradually becomes an invisible cage. Some live for a long time but have never truly lived, for they spend their lives avoiding risks and protecting themselves from hurt. Meanwhile, those who dare to walk despite their fear feel the deepest meaning of existence, to live with their whole heart. Courage doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes it's just waking up after a night of tears and continuing with daily life. It's smiling after life has left you exhausted. It's remaining kind despite having been deeply hurt. The truly strong are not those who have never shattered, but those who pick up their own pieces and walk on in silence. And as years go by, we realize the most terrifying thing is not failure, but living a whole life without ever daring to go toward what the heart desires. Because in the end, life does not remember those who only watch the storm from afar. It marks those who, though breathless with fear, still chose to set out. This is your life. You don't need anyone's permission to live the life you want. Be brave enough to live from your heart. Roy T. Bennett. From a young age, many are taught how to become the version society likes rather than the version their own soul truly wants. They learn to smile while empty inside, choosing the safe path over the path that makes their heart flutter, and over time, they slowly forget their own true voice. A single criticism is enough to make us doubt ourselves. A single objection can make us abandon a dream we once loved dearly. Many live like actors on the stage of life, trying to fulfill a perfect role to be recognized, while they are exhausted inside because they no longer recognize who they are. They fear judgment, fear being different, fear failure, and finally, that fear turns them into prisoners of their own lives. But life was not born to please everyone. A bird that constantly worries about the noise of the crowd will never dare fly out of its familiar cage. Humans are the same. If we always wait for the approval of others before being true to ourselves, we will live forever in hesitation. People may like you today and turn their backs tomorrow. They may praise your choices in success, but will be the first to doubt you in failure. Putting your life in the hands of others' recognition is like handing the compass of your soul to fickle winds. Living from the heart doesn't mean being selfish or reckless. It is a deep honesty with oneself. It is daring to admit what makes us happy and what is silently causing us pain. It is having the courage to step away from places that make our souls wither, even if we must start from scratch. There are paths that are very lonely, because not everyone understands your choice. But sometimes, that very solitude is the necessary price to find true freedom. People often think freedom lies in money, status, or power. But the deepest freedom is when you can live without betraying your own heart. It is the feeling of peace upon waking up each morning, knowing you are walking the path you chose, not the one built from the fears or expectations of others. A tree doesn't need permission from the forest to reach for the light. A river doesn't need approval to flow in its direction. And a human should not live as a copy just to be accepted. In the end, looking back at life, what we regret most is usually not the times we failed, but the times we weren't brave enough to be ourselves. Because time passes so quickly. This life is too short to live for the wishes of others, but wide enough for a brave heart to find its own meaning. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. Jack Canfield. Deep within each person, fear acts as an invisible gatekeeper. It stands before our greatest dreams, our deepest aspirations, and the strongest version of ourselves we could become. People often imagine that what prevents them from moving forward is a lack of luck, opportunity, or talent. But most of the time, the only thing holding them back is the fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of losing face, fear of pain, and above all, fear of stepping out of their familiar comfort zone. Fear is like a thick mist over the road ahead. From a distance, we imagine thousands of terrible possibilities only to lock ourselves in a cage of hesitation. They want to love, but fear being hurt. They want to start, but fear failing. They want to change, but fear losing what they currently have. And so the lives of many drift in a state of limbo, not painful enough to give up completely, but not brave enough to step toward what they truly desire. That is a kind of existence that silently withers the human soul day by day. Fear does not disappear when we run from it. On the contrary, the more we avoid it, the more it grows in the mind like a shadow stretching under the sunset. Only by facing it do we realize that most of the things we once dreaded are not as terrifying as imagined. A person standing before the sea for the first time will tremble at the large waves, but only by stepping into the water do they understand their body can float and learn to swim. Life is the same. No one becomes strong just by watching the storm from a distance. People often want absolute safety before they act. But the truth is, there is no perfect time. Successful people aren't successful because they fear less than others, but because they act even while the fear is still in their hearts. They understand that behind the feeling of insecurity is usually growth. Behind the trembling is character. And behind the doors that scare us most is usually the life we have always craved. Some things only appear when a person dares to cross their own limits. Confidence only comes after facing failure. Freedom only comes when daring to abandon the things that imprison the soul. And true happiness only comes when a person is brave enough to live true to what their heart desires. Just as a diamond must endure immense pressure to become brilliant, humans must go through the dark zones of fear to find the light within themselves. Looking back one day, we will realize that the moments that changed our lives weren't when everything was easy, but when we decided to keep going despite our hearts being full of doubt. For in the end, the greatest danger is not failure, but letting fear silently steal the life we could have lived. The difference between winning and losing is most often not quitting. Walt Disney, but if we look deeply into the true journeys of life, we realize a haunting truth. Many fail not because they lacked ability, but because they stopped too soon. Meanwhile, those who reach success are sometimes simply those who endured one more time, walked one more stretch, and persisted longer than their own despair. It is easy to collapse under the repetition of pain. One failure makes us sad, but many consecutive failures make us doubt our own worth. That is the most dangerous moment, when the battle is no longer outside but exploding within the mind. Some are defeated not by circumstances, but by the silent voice in their head constantly repeating, "You're not good enough. Trying more is just useless." And so they give up, not because there is no more road, but because the spirit was exhausted before the opportunity appeared. Life is like a journey up a misty mountain. Those who quit often stop right before the dawn appears on the other side of the peak. They don't know that with just a few more steps, the view could have been entirely different. The irony is that success often appears later than a person's perceived limit of endurance. It tests persistence before awarding the prize. Just as coal must endure pressure for a long time to become a diamond, humans must go through the darkest stages before finding their most brilliant version. Not giving up doesn't mean being strong all the time. There are days when a person walks with feet as heavy as lead, a heart full of fatigue, and a mind that just wants to let go. But the very act of continuing, however slowly, is the deepest expression of character. A tree does not grow in a single stormy night, but by silently rooting through thousands of harsh days. Humans are the same. Quiet persistence often creates greater changes than any short-lived explosion. The most terrifying thing is not failure, but letting yourself be convinced that you no longer have a reason to continue. For as long as you haven't given up, the door of opportunity hasn't truly closed. A person can lose today, stumble tomorrow, but if they still stand up, life cannot yet conclude they are a failure. In the depths of psychology, the strongest person is not the one who never fell, but the one who wanted to quit many times but still pulled themselves back with hope. There are victories that come not with cheers, but in silence when a person overcomes their own despair. And as the years go by, we understand that the boundary between the successful and the failed is sometimes strangely thin. It lies not in superior talent, but in the moment one person decides to try one more time while others have already turned and walked away. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Life is inherently chaotic like the high seas. Some days are calm, others are churning with storms. We cannot order the world to stop changing, force others to always love us, or prevent loss or betrayal from appearing. But amidst everything beyond our reach, there still exists one final place a person can master their own mind. Humans tend to try to control everything external to feel safe. We want others to behave as we wish, the future to go exactly as planned, and life to always be fair. But the more we try to grasp things beyond our control, the more exhausted we become. It's like trying to hold a flowing stream with your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it slips through your fingers. And so many live in a state of perpetual anxiety because they place their peace in things that are too fragile and volatile. True strength begins the moment a person realizes not every storm needs to be extinguished. Sometimes what is needed is learning to stand firm amidst the wind. An insult only becomes a wound when we give it the right to touch our self-esteem. A failure only becomes an end when our mind believes we can never stand up again. External events are like the wind, while the mind is the sail. We cannot control the direction of the wind, but we can learn to adjust the sail to continue moving forward. There are people who look very calm on the outside because they understand a deep principle of life. Emotion is something to be guided, not something to let control you. This does not mean they do not feel sorrow or hurt. They still have sleepless nights, dark spaces in their souls, and cracks that no one sees. But instead of letting adversity pull them down, they learn to observe their emotions like clouds passing through the sky, appearing, existing, then dissolving. It is that inner mastery that creates a strength no event can easily destroy. Modern humans are often swept up in the noise of the world. Comparisons, the pressure to succeed, the gaze of others, and the fear of being left behind. They let their minds be pulled like a leaf in a swift current. But a strong soul is one that knows how to stop, how to filter what deserves to enter its internal world. Not every word needs a reaction. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies in the ability to maintain peace while the world around is full of chaos. In time, we will understand that true freedom lies not in controlling life, but in not letting life control our minds. For when the interior is firm enough, even the darkest days cannot extinguish the light within. And when realizing that power always exists within ourselves, we will stop fearing the turbulence out there, knowing that the most peaceful place is not in the outside world, but in a mind that has learned to master itself. The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams, Oprah Winfrey. But the deepest adventure takes place within the soul. The journey of daring to live true to what the heart desires in a world that always wants us to become like the majority. Not everyone is brave enough to embark on that journey, for living a dream has never been an easy path. It requires trading safety for freedom and trading external recognition to keep one's true self. Two opposing parts always coexist. One part wants to fly far, to touch great things and live a meaningful life. The other fears failure, fears being mocked, fears getting lost, and fears the loneliness of taking the path less traveled. Because of this, many choose to abandon their dreams, not because they no longer love them, but because they are weary from the pressure of life. They convince themselves with safe phrases like "be realistic" or "stability is enough," while deep down, their souls still silently crave something greater. Living a dream is like rowing a boat into the high seas. There are calm days that make us believe everything is worth it. But there are also stormy nights where we doubt our own choices. Those who live for their dreams may be tired, but their hearts still hold fire, while those who abandon what they truly want often live in the cold stability of a soul slowly draining of emotion. Nothing hurts more than waking up every morning feeling like you are existing in a life pre-written by someone else. The journey of following a dream doesn't just change your life, it changes the person within you. It teaches us how to endure failure without collapsing, how to walk on when no one believes, and how to find light even on days full of doubt. The wounds, the stumbles, and the moments of solitude on that path are not signs of error, but evidence that you are truly living, truly fighting for what you love. We often wait for a perfect time to start, but life has no clear map for big dreams. No one knows exactly where the road ahead will lead, and that is the essence of adventure walking even when the destination is not yet in sight. Just as a seed must tear through its hard shell to reach for the light, humans must step out of their comfort zone to touch the most brilliant version of themselves. In the end, what makes a life memorable is not how safely they lived, but how authentically they dared to live. For time will take away youth, strength, and opportunities not yet seized. But those who dare to live their dreams will always carry a special light, the light of one who lived with all their passion, all their aspiration, and all their heart. All serious daring starts from within. Eudora Welty. In reality, the most courageous things on earth often take place in silence. It is the inner soul's silent rebellion against fear, doubt, and the limits that society invisibly imposes on a person. True daring starts not with a footstep, but with the moment the soul decides it will no longer live with its head bowed before itself. Humans always inhabit an invisible prison. It is built from judgments heard since childhood, failures experienced, and the fear of being rejected by the world. Many spend their whole lives in that cage without even realizing it. They fear saying what they think, fear following what they love, fear being different, fear being seen as crazy. And over time, they lose their own identity in exchange for the feeling of being accepted. But deep within, there remains a tiny voice, always silently calling to live truthfully. It is from that hidden place that all daring begins to form. Not with a violent explosion, but like a smoldering fire in a long night. There are those who dare to leave a stable life to follow a dream no one else believes in. Some dare to say goodbye to things that are withering their soul. Some dare to start from zero when the world thinks they have failed. These actions look simple on the outside, but they are the result of a massive inner war. The human mind always wants to be safe, for safety means less hurt, but too much safety makes the soul a prisoner. A bird born to fly will slowly forget the sky if it is locked too long in a familiar cage. Humans are no different. When continuously betraying inner aspirations to please others, life starts to feel empty, no matter how stable it appears on the surface. True daring is when a person is honest enough to listen to the call from deep within and brave enough to act on it. Strangely, the most daring people aren't always loud. They can be very quiet, but inside is a strong will not easily subdued. They understand that life is too short to live as a shadow of someone else. They accept being misunderstood, accept solitude, even accept failure, as long as they don't lose themselves. And that steadfastness creates a deep attraction for humans, are always drawn to those who dare to be real in a world full of pretension. Over the years, we realize every major change in life begins with a very small movement within the mind, a thought that dares to be different, a decision to no longer bow to fear, a moment when the heart says, I deserve a life more real than this. And from there, a person begins to step out of their invisible cage to become the version they always wanted to be. Stand for something or you will fall for anything. The mighty oak was once a little nut that held its ground. Rosa Parks. Without an anchor within the soul, we are swept away by every wave of public opinion, fear, and surrounding pressure. The greatest danger is not that the world changes too fast, but that a human loses faith in their own choices. For when the interior is not firm enough, a single criticism can make us doubt ourselves, and a small failure can make us abandon a path we once craved. We are often more influenced by others' eyes than we realize. A single word of approval can make us happy all day, but a single rejection can keep us awake for nights. Because of this, many do not truly live by their own beliefs, but by the reaction of the crowd. They change themselves to be accepted, change their dreams to fit expectations, and finally become a version foreign to their own soul. A person without a stance is like a dry leaf, but everything lasting in the world begins with silent persistence. A tiny seed deep in the ground cannot become an oak overnight. It must endure the darkness, the cold rains, and being buried by soil and stone before it can sprout toward the light. Humans are no different. Those who are truly strong usually do not mature in ease. They grow from days of being doubted, from failures, and from long periods of silent endurance. It is that holding the ground in difficult times that creates the depth of character. Persistence doesn't mean blind stubbornness. It is the ability to maintain one's core values amidst the myriad noises of life. It is when the whole world makes you doubt yourself, yet you do not betray what your heart believes is right. Some paths are very lonely because pioneers must go through regions no one understands. But that solitude forges a powerful interior. Just as an oak doesn't grow in a greenhouse, humans cannot become resilient without facing the storms. What makes many fall is not because they are weak, but because they change their beliefs too quickly in the face of hardship. They dig wells in too many places, so no place is deep enough to find the water. Meanwhile, successful people often share a common trait. They persist with their path longer than fear and doubt. They understand everything valuable needs time to take root before it reaches high. A strong wind can knock down weak branches, but the oak that has rooted through many storm seasons will still stand quietly heroic between earth and sky. And humans are the same. When there is a deep enough belief within, we do not easily collapse before the fluctuations out there. For true strength lies not in never swaying, but in the ability to keep the roots of your soul amidst the great storms of life.